Hello, this is Andrea, and I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to edit this photo. I had posted this photo edited online. It looks like this, and I just wanted to some people were asking about how I did it, so I'm going to show you. I can't follow my exact steps because I had copied and pasted from another photo, which would because when I edit it along, I edit one and then I copy and paste and adjust and copy and paste and adjust. Um, so it won't be exact, but it will be as close as possible. So one of the first things I do when I have a photo is I do use Mastin Labs. I started using these about 6 months ago, and it just helps kind of streamline my photos, and it helps my editing process to make it a little faster. So my favorite Mastin Labs to use is Portrait 400. You can see it right here. So if I click on that, it's going to automatically give me an adjustment. I know it doesn't look like a big adjustment, but once I start tweaking it is when it comes into play. So Portrait 400, so you just saw me do that. I can adjust the temperature. They say you can adjust it before or after. They sometimes recommend it before, but I'm doing it after now. So I'm adjusting the temperature to make it a little warmer. I know the photo still looks not so great yet, so we're going to keep adjusting. I almost always raise my shadows when I'm using Portrait 400 because I don't like it as contrasty. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and go in and make it all soft. And I almost always use this setting. It just softens everything. It softens the background, and it softens the foreground. So you can see when the light came in here. Let me take that out. You can see what it did here. So it softened all of this. So you brought down the highlights so you could see everything. And then you also have the option for lens correction on and lens correction off. So if you put the lens correction on, you'll see that it brightens everything, which this is normally what I do because this is my style of photography, is this light and airy. But for this one, I'm using a 24mm, so it's a very wide lens and it distorts the edges. And I'm kind of liking the distortion on this one. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I like the darkness around the edges for this one, so I'm thinking about leaving it. So then I noticed that this beautiful sky we have up here, it was definitely more colorful on that night, and which was last night, and the camera didn't quite capture it, or at least it's not showing it right now. But thankfully, because I shot this in RAW, I know that there's more material in here. So I'm going to try to pull that out. So what I do is I grab my graduated filter, which is right here, this little rectangle box. And I don't want to change any of the settings now because I want to change it so I can watch it. So I'm going to go from where I want to start and pull it down. So this, where my cursor is down here, what's between here and the black dot isn't going to be affected very much. It is going to be affected a little bit. So I don't want to pull it so far down where it's going to cover the people's faces. I want it just far enough down to kind of get the clouds in there. So I'm going to leave it there, and then I'm going to start playing. So the first thing I did was adjust the contrast. So you can see how that automatically brings out some things. I'm going to go no contrast, full contrast. So I'm going to stop right around there. The second thing I did is I adjusted the clarity. This isn't my typical editing, but for wide shots like this, especially with cool skies, this is something fun that I like to play with. So I'm going to up the clarity. Do you see how it brought out even more contrast there? I don't want to do it too much because it's going to make it super grainy, but I'm just going to do it enough to bring out a little bit more contrast there. And then I'm going to play with the saturation. I'm just going to pull it up. Now, I don't want to go crazy and go too far, but I'm just going to pull it up enough so you can see some colors. So you can see right there how it made a huge difference. So with those settings, they'll stay there if I just go ahead and do another graduated filter. I wanted the ground here to kind of have as much, maybe not as much, but some contrast like the rest of the photo. So I'm going to pull it over from this corner, just like that. And you can see it doesn't really affect the people too much, but it does affect them a little bit. So I don't want to completely cover them. So I'm going to bring it to right about there. But then I noticed that this area was kind of dark, and I didn't want it to be that dark. So I'm going to lower the contrast on that area a little bit, and it's just going to brighten up that sidewalk. Then I'm going to do it from this side as well, which is going to help with my clouds over here to make them even more colorful and darker. And just pull that in. The contrast there, again, I don't want too much, so I'm going to bring the contrast down purposely. So, but I still have the clarity and the saturation working for me. And actually for these ones down here, I really don't want the saturation too much. It is helping with the clouds, but I don't want it saturating the ground too much. So I might take down the saturation, especially over here, a little bit. So once that's done, you just press enter to apply all the changes. If you ever want to go back and change it, you just hit the graduated filter again, and you can hit these dots, which represent each one, and you can change whatever you'd like to change. So once that's done, I'm trying to think if I did anything else to this photo. Oh, I did notice that on the people, they were a little bit maybe warmer than I wanted them to be. So I did take this brush and I just kind of lightly did a brush over them, just kind of like this. And all I did was kind of take the saturation down just a speck, just because I didn't want them as fully saturated as the rest of the photo. And I also took the temperature down just a little bit. And I don't want them to look sickly or anything. I just want it down just enough to kind of get some of that saturated color off of them. So once that's there, I think that's pretty much it. Let's look at our original photo here and see how close we are. So we're pretty close to that original photo. There might be this is the original, so it looks like I left a little more contrast in the clouds there as this one, but it's pretty close. So the only other thing that you can change if you'd like to, so you can see a big part of this is the tint and temperature. When you're using the tint and temperature, you can change the tint and temperature to work to your advantage, but you want to watch really closely when you're doing it because you're going to be affecting skin tones. So if I bring this down, those clouds actually change to a blue, which isn't the normal color of them, obviously. But you can also tell the skin tones are starting to get a little more greenly and ghastly. Whereas if I bring it back up too much, everything's going to turn purple. So I want to find that perfect amount, which I think I had it at plus 18 for this specific one. Sometimes I can't get it there, so I'm just going to enter it. And then the same thing for the temperature. I'm at 77.5 right now. So if I go up too far, everything's going to get warm. I'm losing my color in my sky. If I go down too cold, the sky looks really cool. But if you look at the rest of the picture, obviously their skin tones are way off. So we're going to go back to my 77.5 here. We're going to stay there. So this is my finished product. This is what I would give my client. And again, it's a little more contrasty than what I normally do. Just to give you an idea, this is an engagement session I'm working on from the other night. This is an example of, my normal style editing. Give it a second to load here. There we go. So this is the original for this photo. So I'm gonna do a quick tutorial on this one as well. So all I did for this one is really, again, I really love this Portrait 400. I rarely use anything else. Sometimes I use the Fuji if there's people of darker skin tones because they look better with the Fuji. But the Portrait 400 is really awesome. Sometimes it's a little too orangey for me, so I might have to adjust that. But if we just start with that, you'll see that it looks like it just changed the blues. But once I warm the picture up, you'll see that we don't want to go too warm. We just want to go just enough. And again, you just really want to watch these skin tones because you want to make sure they're not too warm. And then I might adjust the tint just a little bit. It's hard to get that perfect spot. And then again, I'm going to bring my shadows up like I usually do, just a little bit, because when I press all soft, it's also going to bring my shadows up. You see how that gave me some of my foreground, which I like. And then I believe I did the lens correction on this one. Yes. So I don't know if you can see the difference between those two. I usually do the lens correction because I like the corners to be light and airy like the rest of the photo. And then for the rest of this, just crop in a little bit so they're a little more centered. And I believe that's it. Let's look at our original, see if it matches. Pretty close. Crop slightly different. Looks like this one's slightly warmer. That's pretty much it. So that's how I do it. Thanks for watching.